How do you know if someone is emotionally intelligent? Today, we're going to look at 7 signs that you have high emotional intelligence. Why is high emotional intelligence important? Well, we know from ample research, job satisfaction, lower turnover, higher wages, all of these come for people who have higher emotional intelligence. Today, we're going to look at 7 signs that indeed we are dealing with a person of high emotional intelligence. What are the 7 signs that a person has high emotional intelligence? Well, sign number 1, they welcome feedback. You see, people who have high emotional intelligence have an area that is called high self-actualization. And what high self-actualization is all about is it's setting goals. It's this desire to make progress. It's this desire to have growth. It's this desire to reach the next level. And normally what you'll find for people who are hungry to reach that next level is that they also are hungry for feedback. Now, not all feedback is the same. Some feedback is useful and some feedback is not useful. And perhaps we have to discern exactly who we're asking feedback from. But feedback is invaluable. It's like getting another set of eyes on something we are doing and using that to help us as we perhaps make adjustments so that we can have further growth in our lives. So the first thing we'll notice in a person with high emotional intelligence is this desire for feedback. A second sign that you have high emotional intelligence is that you are able to read other people. Now, what I mean by that is, have you ever walked into a room and there's people there and all of a sudden you can pick up that there's something going on, that there's tension, that there's something being said, that perhaps there's a disagreement among people, that perhaps things are just not right. That's a sign of high emotional intelligence. It's this ability to go in and to look at the people around us and to be able to catch signals and signs. Now, people with very advanced emotional intelligence are actually able to read people's faces, to know the emotions that they're having, especially when it's one of the 7 universal emotions, and even detect when people are trying to suppress an emotion and that emotion leaks out. So the second area that we know that people have high emotional intelligence is this ability to read other people. Sign number 3 that you have a high level of emotional intelligence is high self-regard. Now, let me explain that term. What does high self-regard mean? Well, it means a high level of self-esteem in light of a good knowledge of your weaknesses and also your strengths. Listen to that. So it's weaknesses and strengths. We're able to acknowledge the fact that here are my strengths, but here also are my weaknesses. And even though I know these are my weaknesses, I have a way of looking at them as such that it doesn't overly impact my self-esteem, that I'm able to show up with confidence in light of everything and accuracy as well. So some people really overemphasize their strengths and underemphasize their weaknesses and vice versa. People with high emotional intelligence, high self-regard, really have a balanced approach to this, and they're able also to take their weaknesses and let that drive into some element of self-actualization and plan to improve those areas as well. So look out for a person with high self-regard, and what you're going to see is a person with a very balanced approach, knowing what they're good at and knowing the areas that they need to also develop. Sign number 4 is calm in times of stress. You see, people with high emotional intelligence are able, first of all, through their self-awareness, to realize that they are under stress, and indeed, they realize that those around them are under stress. And one of the most common things that happen is emotional contagion. And what we mean by that is all of a sudden the most common emotion around us, we all of a sudden become part of that emotion. And therefore it is the easiest thing in the world for us to be in a stressful situation emotion and to feed into that stress and to become panicky with other people around us. But people with high emotional intelligence, they're able to realize that the stress and the anxiety may be around them, but what's needed in that moment is to go in with a different emotion and to let others feed off your calmness. Step number 5 is emotionally resilient. You know, the world of work is a roller coaster at times. We can go through one day and experience the highs and the lows. And therefore, people with low emotional intelligence, what normally happens is that they are riding that roller coaster up and down in their moods. People who have high emotional intelligence tend to be more emotionally resilient. You see, they're able, feeding off the last point we talked about, to know if they're under stress, to know perhaps if they need a break, and they're not afraid to take the break. They're able to introduce different practices which will help them regulate their emotions and therefore become more resilient even in those topsy-turvy days when we feel as if we are on a roller coaster. And therefore, people with high emotional intelligence have a number of tools that they can choose which will really help them and help them deal with whatever anxiety or stress is at the moment. The 6th sign that you have high emotional intelligence is the display of an inner drive and a can-do attitude. People with high emotional intelligence have this inner desire to make progress, to have outcomes which they strive to do, and then also, whenever there are setbacks, to be able to be resilient and to rise beyond those setbacks. You know, a true sign of a person with high emotional intelligence is whenever they've had setbacks, whenever something gets in the way of an objective which they're trying to reach, is that yes, they're annoyed by that setback, yes, it may delay them, but ultimately it does not stop them. They redouble their efforts so that they're able to achieve the outcome that they're looking for. And finally, the 7th sign that you have high emotional intelligence is that if I ask you this question, you could absolutely answer it. And the question is this: what are the 5 most critical values that guide your life? You see, people with high emotional intelligence are really connected to the values that lead and guide them throughout their lives. They're attached to those values because those values are critically important. Those values anchor us in the things that are most important to us. Those values keep us the happiest. Those values also help us in our drive for outcomes. So knowing your values and really going through an exercise in discerning what your values are is critically important. And certainly someone with high emotional intelligence really is connected with those values. So there you have it. We've explored 7 signs that you will be emotionally intelligent. Now, you may have gone through some of those and think, maybe 2 and 3, I'm not so sure about. Well, use that therefore as a signal that you might want to focus on them to grow and expand your emotional intelligence. Now, if you've enjoyed this video, I'd like you to do 2 things. First is subscribe to this YouTube channel. Press the bell to be reminded of new episodes. Each week I come out with another episode around emotional intelligence and leadership topics. And then if you've enjoyed this episode, I'd also like you to view the next one, which talks about how we can become better listeners in the workplace.